Live from Seoul, I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea is expected to see more than 400 COVID-19 cases Monday. To cope with the recent resurgence, authorities imposed enhanced level 2 social distancing measures, which will take effect from Tuesday. Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci warns that Americans should brace themselves for a surge upon a surge of COVID-19 infections following massive traveling over Thanksgiving holiday. China's local media says it has established its own pickled vegetable dish, pao chai, as international standard for kimchi industry. But the South Korean government has made it clear the dish has nothing to do with Korean kimchi. Our top story today, South Korea is expected to see more than 400 new COVID-19 cases on Monday again. The 7-day average number of daily cases now stands at 416, which is within the range that could trigger a strengthening of social distancing measures. However, the Greater Seoul region will keep its distancing measures at level 2 for now, but with some adjustments. Our Kim Yeon-sing has the details.
In response to South Korea's third wave of COVID-19 cases, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun announced Sunday that stricter prevention measures will be taken in the capital region. For now, the Seoul area will keep its measures at level 2 officially. But from December 1st to the 7th, saunas and indoor sports facilities will have to close. Also, during that time, the government is shutting down amenities at apartment complexes, like cafes and study rooms, and is banning year-end parties at hotels and party rooms. Also, music academies and other facilities that teach wind instruments and singing will have to close because mask wearing there is not feasible. The Prime Minister said, however, that all these measures will be useless unless the people themselves participate actively.
We need to start a season 2 of K-quarantine, led not by the government alone, but with the people taking part together. We need not just compliance, but each and every person to follow the day-to-day prevention measures.
The government has asked people in the capital region especially to cancel all end-of-the-year plans, especially if they involve 10 or more people. Outside the capital, the country will stay at level 1.5, but local administrations have the right to raise the level if they choose to. Kim Yeon-sing, Arirang News.
South Korea's Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun says the country is trying to secure enough COVID-19 vaccines for at least 30 million people. The ruling Democratic Party says it's working to achieve an even higher number than that. Our Kim Do-yeon has more.
South Korea is currently trying to secure COVID-19 vaccines for at least 30 million people. On Sunday, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun held a press conference regarding the status of COVID-19 prevention measures and opened up about securing vaccines to the press. He said the government was working to get enough vaccines and the current projected number of possible immunizations is at 30 million. However, they're not limiting plans to just that amount, with the government setting the number as a minimum target and is working on plans to go beyond that objective.
As you may well know, when you sign a contract for vaccines, there is no guarantee that all will be delivered. Depending on the situation, development could be halted at phase 3 of the trials. It may not succeed. That could lead to prepayments being made without receiving supply.
This means the government is negotiating with multiple vaccine suppliers on top of the 10 million doses the government is securing through COVAX facility. In addition, domestic pharmaceutical companies are continuing their development and trials for the vaccine, and the government is working to provide as much support as possible. He also added that the government may be able to share more details on the vaccine securing process this coming week. In addition to the Prime Minister's remarks, a Democratic Party source said they are looking to secure vaccines for 44 million people. To make this possible, the party will seek an additional $1.2 billion in next year's state budget. 44 million people is around 85% of the current population of the country. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has warned that Americans should brace themselves for a surge upon surge of COVID-19 infections. The prediction comes as millions traveled across the nation to celebrate Thanksgiving despite the government's anti-travel advisory. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, warned that the United States may see a surge upon a surge of COVID-19 infections following the recent Thanksgiving holiday. Speaking to ABC on Sunday, Fauci said there is almost certainly going to be a resurgence in virus cases as more than 8 million people traveled across the country to celebrate Thanksgiving, ignoring the government's anti-travel guidelines. With a significant uptick set to be visible in 2 or 3 weeks, Fauci added he does not expect travel recommendations and restrictions to be relaxed until the Christmas season. The health expert made similar remarks on NBC, but added that it is not too late to stop the spread of the virus if people wore masks, kept social distance, and avoided large gatherings. Fauci also noted that there is light at the end of the tunnel as COVID-19 vaccines are soon to be offered. As stated by Fauci, the first priority group, including healthcare workers, will very likely be vaccinated by December, followed by more vaccinations in early 2021. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, new daily cases for COVID-19 in the U.S. topped 200,000 for the first time last Friday. With over 90,000 patients hospitalized, the U.S. has so far seen over 13.2 million infections and at least 266,000 deaths. Latest data shows that about 20% of all people in hospital in the U.S. have COVID-19. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Consumption in South Korea declined for the first time in 3 months in October. Statistics Korea said Monday that consumption fell 0.9% on month, led by a fall in consumption of food and beverages and home appliances. Meanwhile, industrial output across all sectors in South Korea stayed the same as the month before. Production in the service sector rose by 1.2% due to the eased social distancing in October, but production in the manufacturing sector dropped by 1.3%. A crucial legal verdict for Korean Air's acquisition of its rival Asiana Airlines is expected to be handed down as early as Monday. The Seoul Central District Court will rule on the injunction filed by the equity fund Korea Corporate Governance Improvement against the state-run Korea Development Bank's plan to inject over $720 million into Hanjin Kal through a rights offering and convertible bonds, which would then be used for the acquisition. The fund, representing an alliance that opposes the deal, insists that the move will damage the Hanjin Group holding firm's existing shareholders' value. If the court accepts the fund's injunction request, the deal will fall apart and Asiana will once again be placed under the control of its creditors. China's local media says it has established its own pickled vegetable as the international standard for the kimchi industry. Responding to this, the South Korean government has made it clear the vegetable dubbed paochai has nothing to do with the Korean kimchi. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
South Korea's kimchi making season from November to early December is when family members gather to prepare kimchi that will last throughout the coming winter. Kimchi, a traditional Korean side dish made from salted and fermented vegetables, cabbage and radishes, dominates the tables of many around the world. It was recognized as an international food standard in 2001 by the World Health Organization and the UN International Food and Agriculture Organization, jointly operated by the International Food Standards Committee. With participation by over 160 member states, the ISO sets out international food standards, guidelines, and codes of conduct. Back then, the Korean name of kimchi was adopted as the official English name, ending the controversy sparked between Korea and Japan over the origin of the dish. China's state-run Global Times reported Sunday that Beijing has established its own pickled vegetable dish, known as paochai, as the international standard for the kimchi industry. China, who is a permanent member of the ISO, began standardizing paochai from 2019. The article explained that the Beijing-led international standard was approved by the ISO last week and was backed by countries like Turkey, India, and Iran. To this, Seoul made clear on Sunday that China's paochai has nothing to do with Korea's kimchi. Its agriculture minister explained that the ISO has made clear that the approved standard does not apply to kimchi. It also added that it is actively providing comprehensive support for the kimchi industry going forward. Kim Yong-sun, Arirang News.
Tensions are escalating in Iran following the killing of the country's key nuclear scientist. Iran's supreme leader and president have vowed revenge while pointing the finger at Israel for being behind the attack. Our Lee Kyung-eun has the latest.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani promised retaliation for the assassination of Iran's top nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh at a proper time. He's joined a number of other officials in blaming Israel following Friday's killing, including Iran's supreme leader, who vowed in his latest tweet to punish the perpetrators of the killing and to continue the work of Fakhrizadeh. Fakhrizadeh, known as the father of Iran's nuclear program, was ambushed and gunned down in his car near Tehran on Friday. Israel has declined to comment on the incident. But foreign media outlets have pointed out that the Israeli Prime Minister mentioned the scientists in 2018, saying remember that name in an accusation of Iran over its secret nuclear weapons program. Also remaining silent on the incident is the U.S. However, hours after the attack, the U.S. has brought an aircraft carrier back into the Middle East, a move it says has no connection with the killing. Whoever is behind the attack, it is likely to renew tensions between Iran and the U.S., Israel's ally, who has repeatedly aimed accusations at Iran over nuclear issues. And it could complicate relations between Tehran and the incoming Biden administration. Amid uncertainty, the international community, including the UK, is condemning the killing, citing regional instability and the violation of humanitarian law.
We are concerned about the situation in Iran and the wider region. We're still waiting to see the full facts, trying to ascertain the full facts of what's happened in Iran. But I would say that we stick to the rule of international humanitarian law, which is very clear against targeting civilians.
The UN, the EU, and others are echoing the criticism, leaving Israel alone in raising an opposition voice against them, saying they were well aware of Iran's nuclear ambitions and violations of international agreements. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
Good morning. The final day of November has got off to a freezing start. Sub-zero temperatures to start the day, and look how freezing it was over in Daegwallyeong this morning. Bitterly cold winds are not helping much either. Highs will also be 3 to 4 degrees lower than the season norms across the country today. So this afternoon, Seoul will get up to 4 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Gyeongju, Gwangju will be at 8 degrees, while mountainous regions in Jeju could see some light snow. It's going to be mainly bright and dry during the day, and dry weather advisories are in place along the east coast, including Ulsan and Busan. And of course, other regions will also notice the dryness in the air as well. A freezing start, dry with a clear spell will be the weather pattern we'll be seeing through this week. And this Thursday is the day of Suneung, the college entrance exam day, and test takers will need to bundle up. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a great impact on what we eat and how we eat. Spending more time at home means that we're eating in more, and that has naturally increased our interest in healthy eating. COVID-19 has set off a healthy diet trend.
As more people started eating homemade meals instead of eating out, there's been a rising interest in foods that are both healthy and tasty. One example is kimchi. Korea's staple food kimchi, now enjoyed around the world, is rich in nutrients, boosts the immune system, and can be stored for a long time. A low-sodium, low-sugar diet is also popular. Processed foods that are less salty, canned ham, and even soy sauce with a lower sodium content, as well as low-sugar foods. People use natural seasonings to make healthy dishes that are not too spicy or salty. The current demand for health-related products is having a huge impact even on our eating habits and food.
The prolonged COVID-19 pandemic is shifting the trend from eating out to eating in, from convenience foods to healthy foods. The rising interest in healthy eating and well-being is one of the changes brought by COVID-19. But one that is probably changing our diets for the better. The best way to overcome COVID-19 is to stick to the basics.
Overcoming COVID-19 together. Let's all stick to the basics.